In this lesson, we're going to explore two physical security controls known as fencing and bollards. Now, in the realm of physical security, fencing and bollards stand out as some of the most primitive yet effective tools that are employed to safeguard assets and people inside of your organization. These tools are indispensable for security professionals that are aiming to ensure that their facilities, infrastructure, and public spaces remain safe from various types of threats. Now, fencing serves as our first line of defense. A fence is simply defined as a structure that encloses an area using interconnected panels or posts. These structures can be crafted from a wide range of materials, from wood to metal to wire mesh to concrete and more. These fences can be quite ugly, like a massive 10-foot tall electrified fence, or one that has razor wire going right across the top, or they can be more decorative, but still secure, like a tall cement fence that surrounds your building. Now, in terms of physical security, fences are going to serve several different purposes. First, fences are a great way to provide a visual deterrent by defining a boundary that should not be violated by unauthorized personnel. For example, at my house, I have a 6-foot tall fence that provides a defined visual barrier showing where my property starts and where it ends. Second, these fences can be used to establish a physical barrier against unauthorized entry. I used to work for the US government at several of their military bases, and each one had a large electrified fence with razor wire going all across the top of it to establish a barrier between our secured office spaces and the areas located outside of our fenced-in location. Third, fences can be used to effectively delay intruders, which can help provide our security personnel a longer window of time to react to an intrusion. If it takes the intruder another 5 minutes to climb over the fence or to dig underneath it, that is actually going to give us an extra 5 minutes to get the police or our on-site security personnel over to that location in order to capture those intruders. At their core, fences provide us with the primary method of protecting our facilities against trespassing, theft, vandalism, and unauthorized facility access. However, these fences can also be vulnerable to attack themselves. For example, an intruder might attempt to scale a fence by climbing over it, which would then be countered by building an even taller fence or using deterrents like electrification or barbed wire on the top of those fences. On the other hand, some wire and chain link fences are very susceptible to being cut, but you can build your fence out of more robust materials or install monitoring systems to deter and detect against these kind of attacks. If you're worried about somebody digging underneath your fence, you can construct your fence so a portion of it is actually built underground, or you can bury some mesh wire along the fence line as well in order to protect the attacker from digging underneath that fence. Now, the second type of physical security boundary we need to cover is known as a bollard. Now, bollards are robust, short vertical posts, typically made out of steel or concrete, that are going to be designed to manage or redirect vehicular traffic. These bollards can either be installed as permanent fixtures, or they can be set up as temporary security measures. After the terrorism attacks of 9/11, bollards became extremely popular as an anti-terrorism device because they can be placed along sidewalks or across the front of a building to keep vehicles from driving onto a busy sidewalk or through the front of a building. If you've ever visited a military base, they use bollards all over the place to keep vehicles away from areas where a lot of their people are going to gather, such as the on-base grocery stores, the department stores, and even office buildings on that base. In terms of their anti-terrorism use, bollards are really designed to keep vehicles further away from your buildings so that if a vehicle-based improvised explosive device known as an IED is exploded nearby, your building and its people inside of it should remain safely outside of the expected blast radius. Now, as I said, bollards are usually implemented to create a physical barrier that shields pedestrians, structures, and other assets from potential vehicular collisions, whether those are deliberate or caused by an accident. These bollards can also serve a secondary purpose by acting as a clear visual reminder of where vehicles are not permitted to enter. Now, if you go to the mall or your local downtown shopping area this afternoon, keep an eye out for these bollards. You may see them placed in front of shopping areas or storefronts as a way to deter would-be criminals from using ram raiding techniques. This is where a criminal will drive their vehicle directly into the storefront's window. That way, their accomplices can jump out, rob the store, jump back in the vehicle, and drive away. Now, most bollards are designed to be clearly seen as a deterrent, but some architects prefer to incorporate them visually into a more appealing way so that way they're less noticeable. For example, I have been to several stores here in the United States that use large cement planters in front of their buildings to act as bollards, even though most people just think they're there to hold those plants. Or if you ever shop at the Target department store here in the United States, you're going to see they have these large red balls that are actually sitting in front of their building, and it looks like their company logo, but they're actually bollards. They're designed to look pretty, but their primary purpose is really there to prevent vehicular attacks against the front of their stores. Now, while bollards do a great job of keeping us secure, it's also important to note that bollards are not invulnerable to attack. The primary threat that's going to be used against your bollards is actually a direct impact from a vehicle. So to overcome this, your bollards need to be designed to be able to accept a large amount of force without failing. For example, a bollard with an ASTM rating of F2656-07M30P1 means that the bollard can stop a 15,000-pound vehicle driving into it at 30 miles an hour without allowing the vehicle to move forward more than 1 meter after hitting that bollard. Now, some attackers will also try to defeat a bollard by simply tampering with it or outright removing it if that bollard uses a temporary or removable design. Now, while fencing and bollards both function as physical security barriers, they are designed to address two different and distinct types of threats. Fencing is considered to be more adaptable and well-suited for safeguarding large perimeters around the entire building, where bollards, on the other hand, are really going to be designed to counter vehicular threats in a specified area. So, remember, fences are focused on preventing people from accessing your facilities, while bollards are focused on preventing vehicles from getting too close to your facilities. By understanding the strengths and weaknesses of each type of defensive countermeasure, you're going to be able to design a more secure system that works holistically to cultivate a safer, more secure working environment in your organization's facilities. As the nature of threats continue to evolve, so do the strategies and tools devised to counteract them in this ongoing game of cat and mouse that's designed to prevent physical security breaches from happening at your facility.